Data Visualization, Chapter 3, Section 3.2. We're going to look at tables, and we're going to begin talking about pivot tables, but there'll be a separate video after this showing you a specific example from this set of PowerPoints regarding pivot tables. So let's look at tables in general. When do we use tables? Well, sometimes we use tables and sometimes we use charts as part of descriptive statistics, and sometimes we use a combination of both. Charts are often more effective in conveying information faster and easier. So why would we ever use a table then? Well, there's a few reasons. There's three reasons right here why we would prefer to use a table than a chart. One is when we want to look at specific numerical values, you can't see them on a chart. You need to put them in a table. Another reason for using a table is when you want to make precise comparisons between different values. A chart will only give you relative values. You can see that one number is bigger than another when you look at the actual chart, but you can't really see the specific number. So that's another reason. And the third reason is sometimes we have different units or units of different magnitude, and they don't look good when you put them on a chart. So let's look at an example of that and move on to the next slide. So this is some information. This is information for a particular company, Gossamer, and it's accounting department summary of data for tax returns. So they've actually looked at the revenues and the cost of this company in dollars. And this is what we've got. So we've got a chart, and we've also got the table data here. Now, from the chart, I can see very quickly that revenues, the broken line, exceed costs for this period of time along here. And then at some point here, after about the third month, you see that the costs exceed the revenues for some period of time, all the way through to about here. And then this point here, then revenues again exceed costs. So I can see that fairly quickly, very easily. Much harder to see by looking at those numbers in there. So this is a good illustration why charts show you good relative differences, but they don't show you the specific differences. For that, you need to look at the table. So let's look at the next slide. And on the next slide, we've used a combination of having a chart up here and also a table down here. So you get the best of both worlds. So you can actually see what's going on, get a quick overview from the chart, and then you can look below if you want to see any specific numbers. So let's suppose that to the data that we got from the accounting department, the cost and the revenue, they want to add the head count, say how many employees they had. Would this look good on the chart? Well, let's go back to this chart. In month 1, if I had 8 employees, where would 8 figure on this scale? 10,000. This is 0 to 10,000. 8 would be so low down, we wouldn't be able to see if we had 8 or 10 or 12 employees. It would not be a good idea to actually do that. So if we go back to our original reason for using tables, one of the reasons we're going to use a table as opposed to a chart is when our units we have different units or different magnitudes. So this example we're looking at here, when we're looking at the head count, the units are substantially different magnitude, and to try and put this on a chart is not going to look very good. So when we design a table, what are the do's and don'ts? Well, don't use too many vertical lines. Only use them for clarity. If you want to clarify data, that's the only reason you should really use vertical lines. And horizontal lines should only be there when you're separating off titles or calculations. That's the only real reason you should do them. So let's look at an example of the data for cost and revenue and profit, taking the difference between them. And it's the same data in all 4 designs, but I think you'd agree that this design down here is much tamer. It's the same information, but it seems easier to comprehend. You're not distracted by lots of vertical lines. In fact, this has only got one vertical line, and that's for clarity, to clarify the first 6 months from the total. And horizontal lines, it only has horizontal lines to split off the month title from the actual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 month titles and the total at the bottom. And this design, I hope you agree, is actually easier to actually understand. So it's not you're dumbing down any data, you're just making it easier to understand. And that's what we should do when we teach as well. It's not dumbing down the data, it's putting it in a form that's easier for the students to actually understand and do well. So what are the do's and don'ts again that we can see on this chart? Well, we can see we've got a lot of numerical data on this chart. As you can see, the columns of numerical values, these are columns of numerical values, they are right aligned, which is typical for numerical values in the body of your table to make it right aligned. You'll also notice that the text is left aligned, all this text is left aligned. Any column headings up here should either be centered or aligned using the same alignment as the stuff that appears below. So because the numbers are right aligned, you can either center the title or you could have right aligned it in line with this. And because the text is left aligned, this title should either be left aligned or centered. It shouldn't be right aligned though. And a lot of time we're tempted to use italics when we're doing tables to make things stand out. But really putting numerical values in italics does not improve the readability. Cross-tabulations. What is a cross-tabulation? Well, a cross-tabulation is a way of putting two data for two different variables into a table. So you have one set of data running across the top and another running down the side. And specifically in Excel, Excel calls cross-tabulations pivot tables. So a pivot table is just what Excel calls a cross-tabulation. So we're going to look at an example. I'm only going to show you the beginning of the example because there's a follow-up video from the publisher that actually goes through this example we're looking at really well. So I'll just start by telling you that there's an example here. It's looking at it looks at a lot of restaurants, and there's much more here when you're going to open up the spreadsheet. And let's look at the quality rating. Were they rated as good, very good, or excellent? And it's got the average meal price for the restaurant. It's got the wait time, how long you wait in each of these restaurants. Now, if you want to open up the spreadsheet, it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's called Restaurant Excel Pivot Table Data. Restaurant Excel Pivot Table Data. So if you can open that up, and there will be a video that follows this. It's called Video Restaurant Example, and it will go through this example that follows in the notes.